Good evening. It's on or about 7 p.m. Monday evening. This is a regular session of Athens City Council. I'm Jeff Reisner. I'm President Pro Tem for this evening. Our President of Council, Chris Nicely, is absent. The first thing on our agenda is to establish a quorum. I believe all members are present. Our second item is the disposition of minutes from the regular session held August 7, 2023. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We've had a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Communications to members of City Council. Any members have any communication they wish to share? Okay. Reports and communications from other elected officials. Law Director Eliason. Mayor, Auditor, I didn't see you back there. No reports? Okay. Any other officials I don't see? Now you, Mayor.
Thank you. Just a few emails to share with City Council. Planning Commission began discussion about a code or a change in code to allow for chickens. So I just want to report to Council that the Far East Side Neighborhood Survey, I've received a large number of responses when it comes to chickens in the city. I would love to hear from more people as to what they think, but just want to make sure Council is aware. It's still sitting in Planning Commission, and I think it's important to hear from our community when it comes to chickens. The other thing I want to share with Council tonight is I just got this earlier today, and that being the Wayne National Forest is proposing a name change. So to share a little bit more detail with Council this evening and those who are watching, this is all predicated upon the National Forest is currently named after General Anthony Wayne, whose complicated legacy includes leading a violent campaign against indigenous people here in the state of Ohio. So the Wayne is going to change the name. They have a leading candidate for the name change, and that name being potentially Buckeye National Forest. There are a couple other options that are being considered. Now, mind you, this is a process that's been going on for a year. In my conversation with Don McCarthy at the Wayne National Forest, that it has been going on for a while. There are other proposed names, which include Ohio National Forest and Cotiwa National Forest, which is from the language of one of the indigenous tribes here in the state of Ohio. I myself am more likened to something that has its grounding in the indigenous people who lived here as the name, as opposed to it being named after a nut that falls from one of our trees. The Buckeye.
Total agreement.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My reason for bringing that up to Council, there is the opportunity for anyone who's viewing tonight to submit comments on the renaming of the only national forest here in the state of Ohio. And they can go to R9 underscore Wayne underscore, again, website at usda.gov. I'm going to ask for the government channel to post this out there along with this email that, again, I received from Don McCarthy, who is the operations staff officer for the Wayne National Forest. I will certainly be submitting my comments to the Forest Service on this name change, but the time is short in which to do so. Because they would like to have the renaming ceremony in November, which is Indigenous Peoples Month. If you're interested in submitting something, I suggest that you do it quickly.
Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, since there's going to be a name change, removing the name of Matt Anthony Wayne, that was his nickname, because of the circumstances. It would be logical to name it what you suggested, and excuse me for not being able to pronounce that. My question is simply this: would you see any advantage in this council, if they deem it appropriate, in passing a resolution to that effect, to perhaps give it a little bit more weight?
I think that that would be a wonderful idea for council to do so, or independently, council members, as 8 of you, counting the president of council, to submit a letter, but I think a resolution would be fine. I think even just a letter coming from the council members stating what you collectively would like to see, as the name change, or whatever you deem is correct, but a resolution would be fine. I think there have been many, again, this is my conversation that I had with Don McCarthy earlier today. In that year-long process, they have been in constant communication with the leaders of the Miamis, with leaders of Shawnee, as well as Wyandotte, some of the original nations or tribes here in the state of Ohio that ultimately were pushed out. And so in conferring with them as to what they deem to be the best name possible, they've even reached out to the tribal affiliation of the Delawares. Athens County was home to Delaware's indigenous people who were here, who under the Delaware Treaty had been pushed out of Delaware elsewhere, and a large portion landed here for a short period of time. And then were pushed on elsewhere. So they have been in communication. I can get you the names and addresses, email addresses in which to send a letter. The secretary is going to be taking this up, soon, within the next month or so. So I think a resolution would be fine, especially if council were to agree on a name of the 3 that I just mentioned to you, because that's kind of where they're standing. I made the pointed question, is this a done deal? And the answer was no, there's time for public comment, and comment from elected officials.
Any other Member McCary?
Thank you. I appreciate the suggestions and the discussion around the potential resolution. I personally am moved by the notion that this is the only national forest in the state, and therefore the Ohio National Forest name that you suggested resonates with me, especially since the word Ohio is Iroquois for Great River. So that one, I think, more than the nut example that you gave, more than the Buckeye, but also recognizable for a lot of individuals. So I appreciate the discussion.
I mean, we are the Buckeye state, so let's recognize that our state tree is a Buckeye. And my comment was not a disparaging one. It was just, I feel strongly that it should have some reference. The name itself should reflect the indigenous people who were violently removed from our part of the state, or from the state of Ohio, period.
Okay, we can move on to ordinances for second reading. Ordinance 78-23, an ordinance accepting permanent utility right-of-way easements from Oculus Acquisitions, LLC, for access to the existing city lift station at University Estates, introduced by Councilmember Grace. Anything to say about it? No? All righty. Ordinance 79-23.
I do have a comment, sorry.
Do you have a comment?
I do.
Okay.
So I'm just curious about whether this lift station is what we're seeing across from 682, that tower thing that looks really ugly. Is that what we're talking about?
Member Grace?
No. It's an existing lift station that is on the University Estates side of the property.
Okay, because there's that new thing that just went in. I just found out that was, okay, thank you.
This one is the one that we believed that it was in the city right-of-way
Right.
already, but with some new checks of where lines are, it is actually just outside the city right-of-way.
Right.
So,
Right.
yep.
Any further discussion? Okay. Ordinance 79-23, an ordinance amending ordinance 65-23, the 2023 appropriation ordinance introduced by Councilmember Crowe.
President Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for 7923.
Second.
And the reasons for?
The reasons being that these are, this and the next two ordinances are requests that came in during our recess, and we need to expedite their payment.
We've had a motion and a second. All those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Reisner. I'd like to make a motion to approve 79-23.
Second.
Thank you, Member Ziff. This ordinance is a simple administrative edit. We had appropriated money to the general fund, other administrative fund line, and we'd like to change that to the general fund, lands and buildings fund line for vehicle leasing. Thank you, President Pro Tem Reisner.
Discussion from council? Administration? Audience? We've had a motion and a second to adopt 79-23. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. It's passed. Ordinance 80-23, an ordinance approving a then and now certificate for payment to BDG Architects and Designers for parking garage improvements, Phase 3, project number 362, and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Crowe.
President Pro Tem Reisner, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for 8023 for the aforementioned reason that this is a then and now certificate that we'd like to expedite.
We've had a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Administration, audience, auditor? Very well. We've had a motion and a second for 80-23. All those in favor of adopting 80-23?
This is for suspension.
A suspension, I'm sorry, suspension of the rules, 80-23. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Member Crowe?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve 80-23.
Second.
And as previously mentioned in a committee, this is a then and now certificate in the amount of $6,250 for Project 362, the parking garage improvements. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve this ordinance. I think we did that, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
We have a motion and a second for this now. Okay, great. And discussion? Anyone out there? Okay. All those in favor of adopting 80-23, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. 81-23, an ordinance amending the 2023 appropriation ordinance 155-22, introduced by Councilmember Crowe.
President Pro Tem Reisner, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for 81-23 to expedite these payments.
Second.
We've had a motion and a second. Discussion for suspension of the rules? Very well. All those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Member Crowe?
President Pro Tem Reisner, I'd like to make a motion to approve 81-23.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ziff. There are two appropriations in this ordinance. $50,000 to the general fund auditor for additional income tax refunds, and $52,000 to the general fund police for payouts. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Very well. This was to suspend the rules, right? To adopt. Just want to make sure. All those in favor of adopting 81-23 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 82-23. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into the agreement establishing the Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC, and a natural gas program agreement with NOPEC, and related matters introduced by all members of council. Who will speak to this?
If you just need somebody to read it, I can read it.
No, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, sure.
All 79 pages.
Here we go. Buckle up. All right, as said, here we go. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter the agreement establishing the Northwest Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC, and a natural gas program agreement with NOPEC and related matters. Cool, already said that. Whereas under section 4929.26 Ohio Revised Code, the mayor of the city of Athens, Ohio, the city, is authorized to establish an opt-out natural gas aggregation program for the benefit of eligible natural gas consumers located within the city, and whereas the city previously enacted legislation 0-64-17 authorizing the city to establish an opt-out natural gas aggregation program in the city, and authorized the Southeast Ohio Public Energy Council, or SOPEC, which had previously joined NOPEC as a member, to act as the city's agent in order to participate in NOPEC's natural gas aggregation program and to enter into a natural gas program agreement. And whereas Ordinance 75-17 approved the NOPEC plan of operation and governance for NOPEC's natural gas aggregation program, stating that there may be an exit charge as described in the opt-out notification. However, the terms and conditions provided to the customers indicates there is no cost to terminate the agreement. And whereas the city has participated in NOPEC's natural gas aggregation program since 2017, and whereas the city has determined that it is in the best interest of the city and certain natural gas consumers for the city to join NOPEC as a member and to directly contract with NOPEC to participate in NOPEC's natural gas aggregation program, the gas aggregation program, and to execute all documents necessary for the city to participate in the gas aggregation program directly through NOPEC, including the agreement establishing NOPEC and the NOPEC natural gas program agreement, and to terminate its authorization of SOPEC to act as the city's agent in connection therewith. Whew.
Thank you.
Be it ordained by the Council of the City of Athens, Ohio. Section 1, the Council of the City, the Council, finds and determines that it is in the best interest of the city and certain natural gas consumers located within the city to join NOPEC and become a NOPEC member and to participate directly in NOPEC's gas aggregation program, and hereby authorizes the mayor to enter into such agreements as necessary for the city to participate in NOPEC's gas aggregation program, including the agreement establishing NOPEC and a natural gas program agreement with NOPEC, copies of which are attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, and to terminate in all respects the city's authorization of SOPEC to act as the city's agent in connection therewith.
Thank you.
There we go.
Discussion, member of council. Administration?
Can I get the Clef Note version?
Yes.
You read that well. I mean, I don't know that I've ever heard a full ordinance being read, so thank you.
Bam!
No, I appreciate that. Basically, what this is, I mentioned in committee last week, is that we have been, our citizens have been through the gas aggregation with NOPEC, but the money always passed through SOPEC, which has a partnership or had a partnership with NOPEC at the time. That partnership has since dissolved, and so since we are with NOPEC gas aggregation, this just makes sure that that money now is flowing straight from our citizens, their billing to NOPEC as opposed to going through SOPEC. So it just shortens that process.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak to this? Auditor? Audience? Thank you, Member Ziff. Ordinance 83-23, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to execute a 25-year easement with Ohio University to replace a water line, introduced by Councilmember Grace.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Reisner. And this is a 25-year easement being granted to the city from Ohio University, and it is where there is an existing water line, but the university can only grant 25-year easements, so we have to redo this every 25 years. And I find it interesting and amusing that the total consideration for this 25-year easement is $18.04.
Think they can afford it?
Well, it's a very important number. Discussion? Member Crowell.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Reisner. Member Grace, I know that Director Stone is not here today. I don't know if you have any information on, this ordinance does say to replace a water line and not just a renewal of the easement. So I'm wondering, my only concern is this is right next to historic Bingham House and a very old stand of trees that goes along Richland Avenue there. If there is construction to replace this water line, Mayor, do you know if there's any danger to those trees?
There is not. As I understand it as well, where there is the trees that historically came from Chubu, Japan, that the water line will go on the south side of the bike path, so it's staying, actually, I take that back, it's separated from where those trees are, it'd be on the north side now. So it'll be on the north side of where those trees are, as well. It doesn't go near, with putting this in, anywhere would it have any impact on the Bingham House.
Okay. The first time I saw this map, for some reason I thought it was
Right.
over towards the playground. But this time I realize it's right there along Richland Avenue, across from Peden Stadium,
Yeah.
where not Chubu tree, not cherry trees, but much older stand of trees. And
Yeah.
I just didn't know if there was any impact to those.
I don't know, it is next to Bingham House according to the map, right along Richland Avenue at near Schaefer.
Yeah, right there.
And I, too, when reading the ordinance, I was like, it says replacing a water line, but I believe that Director Stone indicated last week that we're not replacing the water line, we're replacing the right-of-way, or the access. So we should probably clarify. And this, obviously, this ordinance is not funding replacement of a water line. It's simply for the easement. And he said he thinks this water line has been there for a very long time. And so, yeah. But I will send Director Stone an email with clarification as to whether there's a need to replace the water line.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Any further discussion? Mayor, auditor, audience? Okay. Ordinance 84-23, an ordinance granting a special right-of-way use permit at 39 Hooper Street to Patrick and James Balding, owners, for continued use of the city right-of-way for an existing fence, introduced by Councilmember Grace.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Reisner. And this ordinance does exactly what the title stated. It is granting that use of the right-of-way permit that is good for 7 years. And this is for a fence that is in the right-of-way already. And they're just previous permission has expired, so they need to reapply.
Discussion on this issue? Administration, anything to say about it? Okay. Audience, auditor? No. Okay, move on to ordinance 85-23, an ordinance accepting a certificate of registration from Madison Energy Cooperative Association/Utility Pipeline LTD for use of the city right-of-way, introduced by Councilmember Grace.
Thank you. This is also a Title 49. However, this is different because it is a public utility. And so when we have a public utility utilizing the city's public right-of-way, the city has created a process through which the utility company applies for a certificate of registration, and this is the ordinance to accept that certificate of registration from the utility company.
Any discussion on this? Administration, anything to say about it? Public utility? Okay. Audience? Auditor? Very well. Let's see. Next is ordinance 86-23, an ordinance authorizing disposal of a police department vehicle no longer needed for a municipal purpose, introduced by Councilmember Reisner. And I will bring that up here. Allow me to, well, the title pretty much says everything there. Section 1, the Athens City Council hereby declares the following Athens Police Department vehicle no longer needed for a municipal purpose. APD 2017 Jeep, large serial number, asset number. Section 2, the above listed vehicle is hereby authorized for disposal by donation to other governmental agencies, auctions, sealed bids, trade-in, sell for scrap, or by enterprise wholesale auctions or other enterprise outlets. Any discussion on this? Administration?
Just to mention,
Yes.
during committee, I had mentioned that this was a police cruiser. This is not a police cruiser. This is the parking enforcement Jeep.
Jeep, yeah.
Which is a right-size steering wheel vehicle as well.
Well, that'd be interesting.
Rural postal delivery really likes having these right-size steering wheel for obvious reasons.
Any discussion? Auditor, law director, audience? Very well.
Okay, I think you take your time.
Next, we have, well, that concludes all our ordinances for first reading.
No, one more.
Where? Oh, I sorry, I didn't see that. 87-23, an ordinance amending the 2023 appropriation ordinance 155-22, introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Reisner. I'll go ahead and read Section 1. There are two appropriations in this ordinance. $3,640 to the general fund, lands and buildings, for the 2023 NOPEC Energized Community Grant. This is for solar pathway lighting at a new planned city pocket park off of Meadow Lane on the east side of near east side of Athens. And also $20,000 to the Water Fund Administration for payments to the LEAX Rural Water District under the Kershaw Green Agreement. Thank you, President Pro Tem Reisner.
Thank you, Member Crowell. No need for suspension?
No need.
Okay. Now, I think that concludes first reading of ordinances. Next, we have a one reading resolution, R10-23, a resolution creating a pedestrian accessibility and bicycle task force for the City of Athens, introduced by Councilmember Reisner. At our last council meeting in committee, this was read in full and discussed. Correct me if I'm wrong, Clerk of Council, were some changes incorporated that were suggested from our last?
Yes.
Okay. Do we know what those are?
One had to do with residents.
Yes, okay.
Section 2.
Section 1, Section 2, here it is. Section 2 was modified from last, and it now reads, Athens City Council recommends that the task force be comprised of, at a minimum, 5 members to include two residents, one that may reside outside the corporation limits but within the county, a representative of the city's Commission on Disabilities, an Ohio University student, and a member of City Council, all to be appointed by the council president. Was there any others?
There was one that Rob Delac suggested. It had to do with
I just read it?
the,
Yeah.
Okay, he said I just read
was
it.
that, was that part of that one?
Okay.
Oh, yes, because it had the representative, the
Okay.
city's commissioner.
All right, so this is a one reading resolution. Do we have a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Anything from the far end?
Well, I'm just very happy to have this go through. This is a very important step for the city, and I think that having been on this committee, and we have a representative, Rob Delac, over there, who's part of this. We have some people eager to be on this committee, and I think it'll be a wonderful addition to making our community more environmentally friendly, more pedestrian friendly, help people who are need accessibility beyond what we have right now. So I'm very pleased to have this go through, and I hope you'll all vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Spunas. Anybody else on council? Administration, anything to say? Law Director? Auditor? Any member of the audience care to speak to this before we vote? All right, well, have we had a motion yet?
Yes.
Who did the second? Oh, you again? Okay. Okay, we've had a motion and a second.
Didn't read too much.
All those in favor of adopting R 10-23 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Resolution has passed. Yay. Okay, let me get back to my agenda here. The screen is so bright. So we're now at announcements and other business. We have to confirm the mayor's appointment to the Athens Municipal Arts Commission. Care to speak to it, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I can. Let me go up to, I was reading ahead, sorry. Christine Wilson
Yes.
is the individual that I am proposing council to vote on tonight to become the newest member for the Athens Municipal Arts Commission.
Anyone else? Last week, I was at the monthly meeting of the Arts Commission, and I met Ms. Wilson, and I was very impressed by her enthusiasm and credentials. I think she's going to be a good fit for the commission, so I definitely vote in favor of this. Anyone else? Very well. All those in favor?
I was going to say, I make
Yes.
a motion that
Yes.
we accept this nomination with gratitude to Ms. Wilson.
Second.
Second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, and the appointment has been confirmed. So, back to the agenda. We have confirmed the mayor's appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So, I'm looking for some information here. The mayor would like to move Aaron Thomas, currently an alternate to the BZA, to regular board member. Okay, so do we have a motion?
So
Or-
moved.
So moved?
Second.
Second again. Discussion on this appointment? No?
Is this an, excuse excuse me, is this an additional person or a replacement?
Promotion.
Promotion, that's a good word, yeah.
Well, but that
step
does,
up.
but that does, but still, does that add a person or is that replacing a person?
It does not add a person. It moves someone, there's two alternates, and then there's the other members that are not alternates. And it moves Mr. Thomas from the alternate list as one of those two to a full member, which means then I will have to find someone to serve as an alternate for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay,
That person has not been identified as yet.
okay, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion from anyone, audience? All right, let's proceed. All those in favor of the appointment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The appointment has been confirmed. Okay, next is, we'd like to make a motion to remove from the table R-06-23, a resolution of the City of Athens reaffirming its commitment to oppose all forms of bigotry, prejudice, and racial injustice introduced by all members of council. Do I have a motion to remove it from the table?
So moved. Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion about removing this resolution from the table? Very well. The vote. All those in favor of removing this resolution from the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. R-06-23 is removed from the table. It's now on the table. We have a motion to adopt R-06-23.
So moved.
We need to amend it? Oh, okay, it's not here. There it is, okay. Yes, okay. So first of all, we need to make a motion to make some amendments.
I move to amend Resolution 623 per the highlighted notations in red in the council packet this evening.
Second.
Any discussion about these amendments? No? Member Spielness?
Well, I would just like to say that I appreciate all the work that has gone into doing this, making this change, making these changes, and affirming the importance of these positions within our community. I know a lot of people have talked about it, it's gone back and forth, and that's really important when we have a wide support from a wide swath of people, and I want to thank everybody who's been involved.
Other discussion? Members of council? Members of the administration? Mr. Mayor?
Just a friendly suggestion to council. It would be wonderful, I think, for those who are watching tonight, to hear at least the therefores of this resolution, because there are two significant changes, Section 3 and Section 4, in this particular resolution. Councilmember Zip, you did a wonderful job reading the other
Yes.
ordinance tonight.
Well, if I may.
You may.
Excellent. Therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Athens, Ohio, Section 1, the City of Athens is hereby committed to cultivating a community centered on the city's vision statement that Athens is a welcoming, forward-thinking, and diverse community that celebrates its eclectic college town roots while growing sustainably. Section 2, the City of Athens hereby confirms its commitment to local actions that promote racial equity and improve outcomes for all people. Section 3, the mayor, staff, and city council will work together to create a racial equity plan for the city and to develop an appropriate budget to support such a plan, create regular reporting cycles for city council to review and discuss progress. Section 4, the mayor, staff, and city council will create and strengthen existing partnerships while offering resources to community organizations and individuals engaged in work that supports racial equity. Huzzah.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve the amendment. Yes, I got that right.
Yes, you did.
So, no further discussion. Shall we vote on these amendments? All those in favor of the amending, let me get the correct number here, R-06-23, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The resolution has been amended. Now, we can actually vote on the resolution.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended resolution.
Second.
Discussion? Administration? Mr. Mayor?
I would just like to recognize the Racial Equity Coalition, certainly Councilmember Micah McCary and our DEIA coordinator, Lacey Rogers, and all of you, council, for putting the time into thoroughly reading and understanding what this resolution is all about. You know, as we continue on, it's a journey. It's not a one and done by any stretch of the imagination, to continue to recognize that systemic racism still exists, and that we as a community need to do everything within our own power to make sure that racial equity is a reality now and moving forward in time. But again, I applaud council for bringing this forward, for taking this up. I would again just like to mention, this isn't an amendment or anything like that. It's just mentioning that this is something that I believe strongly in, that each year, and in particular in years when there is a change in administration or in council, to where this document is brought forward yet again, to where everyone understands the meaning behind this particular resolution.
Thank you. Member Swank?
And to the list that the mayor cited there, also the Community Relations Commission. They were very valuable in polling their members and adding some valuable language to this.
Member McCary?
Thank you. I'll add to this list the National League of Cities, which has served as a partner for us for some time and has provided a lot of great resources, including those that members can, and audience members can check out themselves just by Googling National League of Cities Advancing Racial Equity in Your City. They have a municipal action guide that has been really outlining the course we've been on for years, and there are 6 steps in that guide that start with setting an example for your city's commitment, and then doing a lot of observing and listening, which I know members of council, as well as the members of the Athens Community Relations Commission and many groups have been involved in small individual and collective ways advancing this work. Making a public declaration, as we did in 2000, is the 3rd step suggested in this framework. Then dedicating infrastructure to action. So I'd really like to commend the city on the hiring of our inaugural DEIA coordinator, Lacey Rogers, which has provided a critical infrastructure resource. Step 5 is committing to policy and system change. That will be ongoing work for us that will largely be driven by Step 6, the creation of a racial equity plan that our amendments tonight codify. So I am looking forward to seeing this work continue to evolve and appreciate everyone's efforts.
Thank you, Member McCary. Anything further from the audience? Okay, then, well, let's get around to voting. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 06-23, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Okay, now we're to opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services not covered on the agenda. You'll have 3 minutes and state your name and your address, and do you represent a group, and
Thank you,
blah,
Councilmember.
blah, so on and so forth.
So my name is Zach Rises. I live at 122 Central Avenue, and I've come before this body the last 2 weeks to update you all. That's why I'm here again, for updates on a project we're working on with the administration and with the city to work to bring a 4% OFA deal to the city of Athens, which is, again, to recap, an award of money to help build income-qualified housing in the city. As I've updated all of you before, this is a very short timeline, and we are still working under that timeline, but we're still working to nail down a site. The site that the developer thought that they had picked was going to be too costly to develop, and so they're actually this evening or first thing tomorrow morning putting in an offer or securing an option on 2 new sites. We hope to also work with the administration, with all of you, and with the city's law director and auditor to find the most fiscally responsible way to provide the match that the developer is looking for, which is very important, of course, for the city. I'll just close with an open for any questions in my remaining time, and just to say that, I'm working on this and several other housing initiatives because I really want to prioritize housing for this city. And I know that all of you do too. So it's going to take action. It's been a hard road over the last 3 weeks. The mayor and I were talking about this before now, but we're confident we're going to get this done. And thanks for all of your partnership and work over the last several weeks, because I know that there are lots of questions for me, and I'm happy to answer them now.
Usually with this part of the evening, we let you speak, we listen, we don't ask questions, we don't make comments. But if you want to stay till the end of the meeting and answer questions from any of us, we'll certainly bend your ear.
I'm happy to do that.
I'd like to hear some things.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you all.
thank you. Anyone else care to speak?
None of my laws don't say that.
Yes, sir. I'll give you the same spiel.
I'd like to politely ask for 3 hours or 3 minutes and 25 seconds.
Okay.
Jack Stoffer, 69 Elmwood. I would like to address ACC 23.04.01C3 to allow non-owner occupied short-term rentals in R1. I'm here to ask that it be struck down or altered or amended to stop non-owner occupied short-term rentals in R1. I would remind this council that when this got started, a group of us spoke up, took a survey of the Near East Side, and presented to council. That survey was 90-some% against short-term rentals. The first case went to the Board of Zoning Appeals last February and was denied. Apparently, I believe Ms. Carson and members thought this should go back to City Council for further review and discussion. It was denied. Well, the appellant went to court. Judge Lang struck the ruling down. It went back to the BZA on August 8th and was denied again. I believe I remember lot size and close proximity to homes as one of the reasons for denial. Mr. Williams' team of attorneys used the word appeal at the hearing, so I feel more legal challenges are on the way. In any event, I would like you to consider the citizens of all of R1. I would ask each of you to watch the BZA meeting of August 8th in its entirety, as I asked the mayor to do, and he assured me that he would. So please watch the BZA meeting and listen closely as the folks from 267 next door to the appellant explained their feelings since last February when they became aware of the true use of the intended use of 269. It would be honest of you to consider the current residents' situations, feelings, and show some empathy and courtesy to them and all the citizens of R1. This is no longer an idea or a theory. One family is already having stress in their lives that wasn't even a possibility when they purchased their home in R1, just like me and my neighbors. We never even imagined of such a possibility. With no code enforcement and no plans to enforce any of the provisions set forth, it's going to be the honor system. And already in the first application and challenge, we get a man who lied to and deceived his neighbor of the intended use of said property. The mayor previously said to me that he was in favor of short-term rentals but didn't want it to be like the Wild West. Well, with no enforcement, it will be like the Wild West when and if the neighbors have to police their own homes and neighborhood. These are not neighbors. They are guests of a small hotel in an R1 district. I will be in touch with my council person soon and the at-large city council people. Of course, I would like all council members to show empathy and consider this when making future decisions. Empathy for our citizens. This is truly a quality of life issue. Please take this to the proper committee for review with the majority of the citizens in mind. Protecting the quality of life is the code office slogan. I hope it's the slogan of the City Council of Athens. Please consider these words and empathy. In my meeting with the mayor, I went over all the negative things about short-term rentals in non-owner occupied R1. I then asked the mayor to point out the positive things, and I believe his response was, "I'm not sure I can point to anything." This is serious business. It's about R1, our most restrictive, the only place we can go to have our own personal homes, and be kind to the citizens that are here, that bought in, who are in R1. We just want what we paid for. That's all I'm asking for. Honesty, consideration, and empathy. You want to be inclusive. I want to be included in getting what I paid for, and I'm not here for me. I'm here for me, but I'm also here for the folks at 267 and everybody else that's in R1 who doesn't know when the next house sells what's going to happen. I went an extra 30 seconds. Thank you very much. I would appreciate true consideration.
Thank you.
I have a question for the law director.
Go ahead.
I'm kind of guessing if is your question to have they appealed it yet?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
The time hasn't passed.
Anyone else care to speak? If not, then we're adjourned at 7:55 PM.
I'd like to make a motion.
I always do that because I want out of here. Go ahead.
President, I just wanted to recognize Diane Bouvier, who came after we passed the resolution for the committee, for the task force, for the pedestrian accessibility and bicycle task force for the city of Athens. She was our leader and chair. She did a fabulous job. She's an incredible person, and I'm so impressed with her work. I already recognized Rob, so anyway. But yeah, Diane came right after we voted on it. I just wanted to congratulate her for all of her really hard work, and I know what she's done for the community, so thank you very much, Diane.
August.
No, we try to be efficient. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We're adjourned.